Okay, I see some folks joining in, but I think we'll just go ahead and get started with our webinar, High Touch Fundraising in Salesforce. So I'm going to make sure that everybody sees my screen. Okay, I think we're good here. And I want to start off here really by thanking you all for attending today's webinar. I know whether it's your lunchtime or whether it's the beginning of your day, lots of ways you could be spending your time. So I appreciate you taking the time to join this webinar. And let me just start off by way of introduction. My name is Ruben Singh. I've been in the CRM space for about 20 years, and at least half of that has been in the nonprofit sector. I've been very fortunate to have worked with some of the most impactful nonprofits in the country, and I've learned a lot from my experiences. But I would say that the lesson that I learned, or I'd say that stands out the most, is that it does not really matter how amazing or how shiny the new system or technology or application is that you have. If there's not a clear alignment between your people, your process, and your technology, the technology by itself will likely fail. So this is really why I started 1/10 Consulting, to not really just implement CRM systems, but instead to work closely and collaboratively with nonprofits to ensure that all facets are aligned. And there is a clear link between what we deliver and how it serves your staff and ultimately your beneficiaries. Only then can we really help you move your mission forward. We do that through a variety of services, through fundraising strategy, CRM needs assessments, actual implementation, as well as user adoption and change management. But that's just a little bit about me and a little bit about us. But let's focus our attention to today's agenda. So we're going to focus on high-touch fundraising in Salesforce. We're going to start off with just level setting on some definitions. We'll talk a little bit about why Salesforce as opposed to other CRM systems. We will do a short demo of some key features around high-touch fundraising. I will talk a little bit about what I have seen work or not work at some of the implementations and the projects that we've been involved in, and also share some thoughts on things that you might want to consider for your implementation, and then we'll wrap up with Q&A. I've put everybody on mute for starters just to avoid any background noise, but I'd say please do submit any questions that you have, and I will be sure to check on those periodically and answer them as we go along, so just submit them through the chat. And then we'll open things up as we get into the Q&A. Okay, one moment here. Okay, we are going to jump right in here. I'm going to check the chat. I've got could somebody just note that they can hear me okay? Because I had a conflicting message saying that I was on mute. Okay, and were you able to hear the introduction, or are you just hearing me right now? Excellent. Okay, so it looks like I got a message in error there, so I'm glad you can all hear me. Fantastic. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So let's go and jump in right here with our topics. And again, please do submit any questions or anything that you have on the chat, and I will be sure to check that periodically. Let me just present this one moment. All right. So high-touch fundraising. I like this one example that I saw that I wanted to share with you all. The first is comparing a fast food drive-through experience versus having a waiter at a restaurant and that experience. And I like this example because I thought it really spoke to the difference between low touch and high touch. So think for a second McDonald's drive-through as a low-touch experience. You place your order over a microphone. Sometimes there's human interaction. Sometimes there's not. Sometimes it's completely automated. It's designed to be very transactional, very quick, very efficient, and needs to support large volumes. Where in a high-touch scenario or a high-touch experience, think about a restaurant waiter where they introduce him or herself, they ask about the guest, they find out about any allergies or preferences, they might recommend some meals. Also, periodically throughout your meal, they might check in on you. And of course, they thank you before you leave. So that experience has a lot more interactions than you would see in a low-touch scenario. So how this applies to fundraising, I like to look at online donations and to some extent direct mail as being low-touch fundraising, whereas what our focus on for this discussion today is going to be more so on high-touch. So high-touch fundraising is very donor-focused. It's all about cultivating relationships, and that could take time. It could take months, it could take years before that initial gift comes in. And it's largely around taking donors through a series of stages, a donor or a prospect through a series of stages. And what you see on the right-hand side is an example of what a cycle might look like, where you identify that we have a potential major giver, you might research some publicly available information about them, then you go through a cultivation stage where you might have some face-to-face meetings, some calls, some meetings, so on and so forth. And then you ultimately put together an ask of exactly what you're asking from them, whether it's a large gift or what have you, it's an increase of gift. And then even after that gift is secured, there's a stewardship process. So even after you win the gift, after you secure the gift, you want to make sure you're continuing that ongoing relationship. So even for the next time that it's time to ask for another gift. So this is in summary what high touch fundraising is. It's taking you through stages. There's multiple interactions that lead you from one stage to the next. Interactions or touches or moves, as they call them, that move you from one stage to the next. And ultimately, the goal here is to lead to a large gift or an increased gift. Some people refer to this as high-touch fundraising. Some people refer to it as major giving or major gifts, but it's all really the same thing there. So sometimes I get the question of, well, why do I really need a CRM system? Sometimes I sit down with major gift officers and they say, I have a portfolio of about 100 or so people. My spreadsheet's working just fine. So why do I really need a CRM system? So I would argue that we have to remember that one of the key goals of any CRM, any constituent relationship management system, whether it's Salesforce or something else, is to provide a 360-degree view of the constituent. So I would argue that major gift officers, they need CRM more than anyone else because they are the ones who need to consume all the other inputs for everyone else in the organization in order to cultivate that relationship and develop the appropriate strategy. So they need to know what events the donor participated in, what communications they received, what interest they might have, what gifts they've made, where they volunteered, like as much information as possible. You want the major gift officer to have as much of that information as possible so that when they do reach out to that constituent, they can have a thoughtful, meaningful conversation. Secondly, it creates a platform, CRM creates a platform for best practices. So let's say you've gone through these series of steps and they've worked. Well, what are those steps? Let's document them, let's replicate them, let's have others learn to do the same thing or something similar. So CRM is often a way to standardize best practices. It's a way to provide a methodology so that you're not really reinventing the wheel the whole time. So why Salesforce? There's other applications that we could be talking about, and several of them have functionality for high-touch fundraisers. But the focus of this webinar is going to be on Salesforce. Now, I encourage you to watch our last webinar that we did on finding the right CRM solution for you, because that really goes through the advantages and disadvantages of the various systems. But for this conversation, we're going to focus on Salesforce. It's a very powerful tool. It has a lot of robust functionality for major giving. And we've seen a lot of success with it, with many of the organizations that we've worked with. Specifically, we all know Salesforce is a very innovative platform that industries all over the world, all kinds of industries are using. What I like about it is it does have a nonprofit specific app that sits on top of the platform that gives it a nonprofit look and feel. It's called, you may hear it referred to as Nonprofit Cloud or Nonprofit Success Pack or NPSP. They're sort of rebranding, so you may hear it referred to as many different things. The other key feature of Salesforce is it's highly configurable, highly customizable. So not only can it support your contact management and your fundraising, but you can also customize it to meet the specific needs of your nonprofit. Even if it's impact or program management, you can really customize it with the right time, money, resources. You can really customize it to do anything you want. Another key component is there's a very active app exchange. So, if you basically can go on the app exchange and find different tools or different applications that can sit on top of your nonprofit cloud. So let's say you want to use a specific email tool, or you want some more functionality with surveys, or email integration, or all kinds of other features. Or let's say in this case, donor research tools or wealth management tools. You can go to the app exchange, and some are free, some are paid. You can download and apply those to your system and take advantage of the apps on the app exchange, just like you would for an iPhone on an app store. The other piece of this is the Salesforce is, especially with the nonprofit cloud, is largely driven by the community. So once you are on Salesforce, you have access to the Power of Us hub, which gives you access to thousands and thousands of users, nonprofit users who are using the system, and higher ed users. They're exchanging ideas, they're exchanging best practices, they're troubleshooting issues, but they're also making recommendations for the product. And Salesforce looks at this and they incorporate a lot of those things into their roadmap. So it's largely driven by the community as opposed to one company's product management team. And the last piece of why Salesforce is, Salesforce does offer 10 donated licenses through their Power of Us program. So it's 10 free licenses if you're a registered 501c3. I did put this lowest on the list because I don't think, in my opinion, that should be a driving factor for you to go to Salesforce as opposed to something else. From a cost perspective, by the time you add a few apps and you've done your data migration and you've configured and customized, the cost is going to be very similar, if not more, than some of the other systems. And also, I don't want to give the impression that Salesforce is like a plug-and-play system. It does require some configuration, some maintenance, some ongoing support. But like I said, with the right time, resources, and expectations, Salesforce can do amazing things. We are going to jump in the demo, but before I do that, I'm just going to pause for a second to see if there are any questions or any issues. And it looks like we're all good on the chat, but please do drop anything in if you have any questions or need some clarification. Okay, so what we're going to focus on for the demo is of course, I wish I could demo a lot more, but for our time, I'm going to focus on just these 6 areas. We're going to talk about the contact profile, go through an example of a major gift opportunity, apply some engagement plans, talk a bit about levels, and we'll briefly speak about some automation you can do through Process Builder. And given our time, we'll see if we can do stuff on some reports and home pages. So what I'll do here is, before I jump into the demo, I just want to get one principle across, because it's not something that you will see in all systems, but it is somewhat unique for this Salesforce Nonprofit Success Pack. So what we're going to look at is we're going to see a contact or individual in the system, Dr. Brenda Vasquez, and when I create that contact record in the system, it's automatically going to create an account for her. So these are the relationships between contacts and accounts. It creates a contact record for Brenda, and I'm going to track all her profile information there, her donor information there, address, email, all that. And she will be automatically linked to the Vasquez household. Now, her partner, Mark, might also have an individual or a contact record in the system for him with his donor profile, his gifts, so on and so forth. And then I have the ability to link them together in a household. So again, these are individual contacts, but they will both be linked to their household. Now, that said, I can still affiliate Brenda to as many different organizations in the system as I want. Let's say she works at Orange County General Hospital, or she is a board member of California Pediatrics Association, or she's an alumni of somewhere else. I can track as many different affiliations to the organization, to Brenda. So those are just a key principle I wanted to bring up, that if you're not familiar with Salesforce, it can be a little confusing. I have a contact record. By default, she is tied to her household, but I can still affiliate her to as many different accounts as I want to in the system. All right, so enough of the slides. We'll go into the demo. And again, I'm not sure how much experience everyone has with Salesforce, so I'll try to balance it a little bit. But what we see here is a basic homepage. I'll admit, I come from the technology side and not the sales side. So you won't see a very witty tailored demo. I'm a bit of a purist. I like to keep things as open as possible and as minimally configured as possible. I want you to see things exactly how it is when you install it out of the box. So in fact, I think the configurations I did here, probably took me less than an hour. So everything is pretty much how you would see it out of the box. So we have our homepage here, and this is where it would list out any events that are for me today, or any tasks that I need to follow up on, some key metrics about things that I care about, like opportunities by stage, and some recent items. Of course, you can configure this for different security profiles in your organization to bring in all the key information that you want. And of course, it is dynamic. So as things change, every time you refresh it, it's requerying the system and pulling that data to you. But where we're going to start is the contact profile. So let's go to Brenda's record. And so this is Brenda that we were just looking at in the slides. And I'm just going to quickly summarize some of the things that we're seeing on her profile record from a major gift officer's perspective. Obviously, we have the household that she's a part of, her primary affiliation, where she works, like I mentioned earlier. And as we scroll down, the things that you would expect to see: phone, email, address, all straightforward stuff. But then as you scroll down, you'll learn a little bit more about her donation information. What was her first gift, her last gift, her average gift, her largest gift, so on and so forth, as well as roll-ups, so her total number of gifts. So these are key things, obviously, as you want to have an educated conversation with Brenda. You want to know what her giving history has been. And of course, this is not stuff you're all entering. It is basically querying the database and looking at all the individual donations that were put in and rolling this up automatically. Not only is it tracking hard donations, it's also tracking soft credits. So if Brenda has influenced a gift in some way, shape, or form, you would have that tracked here. And then it looks at her household as a whole and how have they donated. So these are just some key profile information as well as metrics, giving metrics about Brenda. Now, from a major gift officer's perspective, this related tab is really where you're going to find a lot of useful stuff. This is where I would track her organizational affiliation. So she went to Northwestern. She is the founder of her family foundation, and this is where she is an employee, a board member. So again, the more information we could track about the various organizations she's affiliated with in the system, the more thoughtful and meaningful our conversation will be with her. Also, I can track contact relationships. So if I know that she is a friend of Katie, or she has worked with Marguerite, or Rashid is a very influential person in the network, and Rashid is her uncle, I can list all these things here. Again, we're looking for the long term, so we want to know as much about her as possible. So any personal relationships, any organizational relationships, we have the ability to track that here. Moving down, I can see what opportunities or what gifts she's made in the past. So she's made 2 gifts. The most recent was for $2,500. I can see what communications she's received or what appeals she has responded to. So I see that she responded to our 2017 Giving Tuesday. That's where she made a gift, as well as direct mail pieces that we've sent her. If she had volunteer hours, we can see where she has volunteered. That is a topic for another webinar I'll be doing soon. And any other relevant notes and files. So this is where, you can see the full picture of Brenda. And then lastly, if there was any activities, I can see when there was last communication with her. Okay, last week we gave her a call and we thanked her for her gift and we invited her to our gala. So here's, again, just part of getting that full picture. Now, let's say out of all this, you look at this and say, okay, we're still missing some information. There's certain things that we need with our nonprofit that we care about that I don't see here. Well, of course, you can add as many things as you want. You can add custom fields. I just added a custom field here called hobbies. I've seen some organizations just do a lot of stuff with this, say, okay, what kind of things are they interested in? Are they, the industry in travel? Are they interested in golfing or, the symphony or whatever? I've even seen this one about pets. If you have a choice of sending them a calendar at the end of the year and they're a dog lover, send them the dog calendar. So although this might seem a little silly, again, we're talking about building relationships. So all this stuff can go a very long way. So I like to recommend this hobbies type of field, and you can select and add as many of those as you want. I also added this checkbox here called Qualified Plan Giving Lead. So let's say somewhere in the conversation somebody says, oh yeah, I might consider leaving some money in my will to your nonprofit. Okay, well, let me check this box, and then that should show up on somebody else's dashboard and they'll make sure they give you a call. So that's some basic information about the contact. The key things I wanted to cover there. Again, most relevant there is the profile, the relationships, the activities, and the ability to create custom fields. So now I have Brenda's record, and let's say we've had enough conversation with her that we think we might have an opportunity for a large gift. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an opportunity. I'm going to select major gift. There's many different options here. For this, we're going to select major gift. And I'm going to say this is we're aiming for $10,000 ask. This is for Q3 of 2018. This is tied to the basket household. There's always little shortcuts I can take here, but in order just to keep things very straightforward, I'm going to go through each of these. We're going for $10,000. I'm going to assume we could potentially close this as early as tomorrow. I'm going to tie this to some of my marketing activity that we did for major campaigns earlier this year. And I'm going to set the stage here. And I'm going to set the stage to, think of that circle that we saw here, the different stages in the cycle. And I'm going to say that we're in the qualification stage. And by doing so, you see that it has already automatically bumped my percentage to 10%. And this is all configurable, but it ties a probability to close to each stage. And then as you bump it up, it will increase. Let's say, and actually most nonprofits I deal with say, we don't really look at things in terms of probability to close. We have our own classification system. So I created this custom field called interest level where, hot, medium, cold, very simple, but you get the idea that you can create any sort of classification system that you want. So I'm going to say, yes, this is $10,000. I'm going to ask today. I can indicate education areas that they might be, program areas that they might be interested in, depending on my nonprofit. And let's say this is a new donor. Again, this is not required information, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of what type of information you want to track when you're setting up a major gift. So I'm going to save that. And so now we have our $10,000 donation in the donation opportunity set up in the system. There are a few more things I could fill out here. So again, if I'm looking for relationships, I might go to contact roles here. And I can say manage contact roles. And perhaps there's another person in their network, like Katie, who is an influencer. And she might be their attorney or their financial advisor, or someone who can who might be able to help in some way. So I want to track anybody I know in contact roles that could help me secure this gift. And here is the different stages in the cycle. Let's say I'm ready to move to the solicitation phase. And if I mark that as current stage, it's going to change the stage and then increase the percentage to 40%. As we go through each of these stages, I can continue to track activities. So let's say I, need to schedule a follow-up visit or something. I can enter the activity and I can save it. And so I can, one-off track each of the interactions or moves, as we call them, as I go through them. Or let's say that we've done this enough times to know that there's a series of steps that we should follow. So anytime, let's say we're in a cultivation phase, we should follow our cultivation plan. It's tried and true, it's worked a bunch of times. So rather than having to enter those 7 or 8 different activities for every single opportunity, I can go to engagement plans. And I'm gonna select new engagement plan. And I created one ahead of time called cultivation plan. So let's say we're cultivating this relationship. I select cultivation plan, I hit save. And what it's going to do is automatically drop a series of activities onto my calendar tied to this gift. So I'm just gonna refresh the screen here. And you will see the activities appear. So give me 1 second. There it is. So rather than creating all these activities, I know I'm in the cultivation plan. I drop these activities. I can indicate how they should be spaced out, and we are good to go. I can now manage against those various activities. So know that you can enter activities on a one-by-one basis, or you have the ability to set up an engagement plan. Several of the organizations I work with say that they actually have an engagement plan for each stage in the process. So when they're in the cultivation phase, they have one set of steps. When they're in the qualification stage, they have their own set of steps. So that's surely one way to do it. So let's say we continue to take this relationship further and we get to the point where they're ready to make a verbal commitment of the $10,000, which is fantastic. Let's say that they tell us, well, we can't make the $10,000 payment all at once, but we can spread it over the course of a year. No problem. Let's go ahead and manage our payments. I'm going to say schedule payments and say that it's going to be 4 payments over 3 months each with intervals of 3 months. And I'm creating a payment schedule. This way I can know when to expect it. I can have it show up on my calendar, and I can really forecast out when those payments are going to come and how I should prepare for it. So know that you can set up these payments as well. And then we get to a point where we have secured the gift. And I'm going to select closed here, and it's going to ask me, well, how did it close? Close won or close lost? So I'm going to say close won, and we've secured the $10,000 gift. And so that's how we kind of take it to the end of the process. A couple other things I want to show you as you get to the end of the process. We have this concept here called levels. So I've just created a very basic ones, silver, bronze, and gold. So the idea here is that if somebody has total giving of $10,000 or more, they will go into the bronze group. 20,000 to 30,000, it will go in the silver and gold. So you basically have a way of create sort of like giving societies or giving clubs. I've seen some people have like the president's circle or the executive directors club or something like that, where they might get some special communication or special events that they might be invited to. So rather than having to manually manage this, you can use levels to assign people to the right group depending on how much they have given. So as you know, Brenda has now given $10,000. She should be in the bronze group. If I go to her record right now, you're not going to see it simply because there is a process that runs overnight that checks all the donations and everybody's total giving and then assigns them to the right group. So I'm going to just manually run that process so you'll see what it looks like. If I wasn't doing this live, I would pause this part so you don't have to see what goes on behind the scenes. But we will run that right now and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm just going to refresh this. While that's running, I'm going to just quickly check to see if there's any questions. Nope, looks like we're okay for now. And if I now go back to my contact record for Brenda, she should be in the bronze level. There you go, at the bronze level. Now, what we could also do is we have the silver level, but what I wanted to show you there is for the gold level, I have said that if you're $30,000 or more, you'll get to the gold level. And I'm also going to automatically apply the gold member action plan once you reach that level. So real quickly, I'm just going to create another opportunity for Brenda for $20,000, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay, and we're going to just set this for today. I'm just going to call it close one directly. And I'll just indicate a campaign, hit save. So it's $20,000 won. And if I rerun that job now, what it should do is, I always say should in live demos, it should move her to the gold level and apply that action plan specifically for gold members. So I'm going to go to her record right here. Maybe that job didn't fully run. Oh, I'm not sure if I ran it. Let me refresh one more time. There you go. So it says her current level is gold, her previous level is bronze. And I'm going to go to the activity here. And sure enough, it created 3 open activities for me. Thank you call from a board member, send her an invite to the monthly gold member dinner, so on and so forth. So you can create some level of automation based on the level that they're on. The last thing I wanted to show here is the process builder. It's just another way of creating some sort of automation based on the types of activities that are happening. So, but before I go there, you may be familiar with Salesforce's Chatter tool, which is a collaboration tool that's designed to be used internally. So I've created, for example, a Chatter group for the high touch employees. So all the major gift officers are part of this Chatter group. They can communicate with one another in sort of a Facebook format about any updates or announcements or any key activities that are happening. And so rather than every time a new gift comes in, sending out an email to somebody and say, hey, we just got this $15,000 gift, I wanted to create a process that automatically does that. So anytime a gift comes in over a certain amount, I want it to automatically post to this Chatter group so everybody's aware. And especially you want to make everybody aware because there might be some protocol or some sort of finance process that needs to happen when a large gift like that comes in. So what I did was I created a process builder, and this is one of those things that you can do to create some automation without any code. And I created this one called a large gift notification, where I set it up so that if a gift comes in that is $15,000 or more and in a closed won status, it's going to perform this action. And the action it's going to perform here, it's going to create a post to the Chatter group, to this particular Chatter group, and it's going to say, congratulations team, a gift of this amount was just received from so-and-so, and here's the opportunity ID in case you want to search for it. So it should have done that for the gift that I just created because it was for $20,000. And if I go to the high touch fundraising group, yep, there it is. Congratulations team, a $20,000 gift was just received from Brenda Vasquez. So just an idea to show you the things that you can do using Process Builder, basic automation without any code. That's a very common thing I see frequently with high touch fundraising groups. So that is the Process Builder. The last thing we had as far as demo goes, we're going to talk about reports. I don't know if I have a lot of great reports to show you because there's limited data in the system, but of course you know that you have the ability to create your own views. So let's say, for example, I created that new field called interest level, where the interest level is medium. So I can create a list view of any medium major gifts. And this is just for me. I only want to be able to see it. And I have the ability to set my filters. Just my opportunities. And I'm going to look for that interest level field that I created, where the interest level is medium. And I can save that, run that. And that's just a way to create some very easy views and save those views. And you can actually move these views onto the homepage if you want to, as long as they're shared across the organization. And then for more complex reports that maybe go across many different objects in the system, there are plenty of reports that are available out of the box. So I didn't create any custom reports. These are all out of the box. You have your standard opportunity pipelines, your opportunities by stage. And then if you really just drill into the reports, there's a tremendous amount of reports that are available to you just out of the box. Oh, I'm not quite sure what happened here. Let me expand this a little bit. But all the key reports that you would expect to see for major gift officers, last year, given last year, but not this year, given some year, but not this year. And then all of your standard given by household, given by month, given by year. So all these reports are available to you. And then of course you can clone any of these in case you want to create them with your own specifications. So that's just a quick overview of reports. And then of course, you can set up a home page per security profile. So if there's certain things that are really relevant for folks, let's say for your fundraising group or for your high touch group, you can have a custom homepage just for them. So that was what I wanted to cover in the demo, and I'm going to check again to see if there are any questions. So a couple questions, and I'm not sure if everybody can see this or only sees when I respond to them. So one of the things I see here is, what does it look like to track planned giving through commitment, then fulfillment? Planned giving is a little tricky. So out of the box here, Salesforce does not have the Nonprofit Success Pack does not have a specific area of functionality for planned giving. So what you would do is very likely create a custom, not even custom, you can configure this to have a separate process just for planned giving. When I've implemented this for others, we typically have what's called a different record type, because the type of information that you're capturing is very different if it's a planned giving gift versus a major gift. So just like you have opportunities here and says new opportunity, we usually create a custom option here for planned giving, because you're going to want to track lots of different things, track information about the will, track information about whether it's real estate or whatever, you know, the properties of the gift, the planned gift. You want to track a separate custom field for that, or custom form for that. You also typically have custom security around that. So some planned gifts tend to be very sensitive, so you want to have your own configuration around that for security. But principally, I would say it's going to look very similar to the major gift. You would just have a different set of stage names. And obviously, the last, especially if it's like a will gift, it never really closes until, you know, after the constituent has passed away and then the gift comes in. So it will look very similar to what we just saw with the major gift, but you will have a different set of fields to capture and a different set of stages to capture. Yeah, okay, good. Any other questions on the chat? Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Okay, so unless there's any other questions, I'm going to jump back to the slides here. Again, we covered a few things. We talked about the contact profile. We talked about creating a major gift opportunity. We went through an example of an engagement plan, not only to set one up, but also to have it automate based on the level that you're on. We talked a bit about levels and some basic automation that you could create through the process builder. So let's talk about what's worked and what has not worked. And again, any consultant or system implementer that you speak to is going to have a different perspective on this, but we will share ours on what we have seen work when we have implemented high-touch fundraising or major giving at nonprofits. The first recommendation we have here is getting the buy-in on the process up front, and use your own terminology. That cycle and the percentages and the names, completely configurable. So you want to make sure you engage folks up front, have the meetings up front and say, well, what are the real cycles, the real stages in the cycle for your nonprofit? Some have like 3-step stages, some have 20. You want to make it, find that right balance with it being useful and not just very tedious to go from one stage to the next. So you want to get really smart stages implemented in the system that will really help you drive decisions. And you want to make sure that you use your own terminology. You surely don't want to come up with this in a vacuum and then just roll it out in training. If you expect people to use it, it has to be meaningful for them. So you want to make sure that the process, the terminology that you come up with, it's configurable for a reason. You want to make sure that it's really relevant and resonates with your users. The second point is Chatter is a great collaboration tool, but it's not Facebook. It's really not meant to be just a sharing of whatever information that you want, or jokes or memes or stuff like that. When I've seen organizations kind of overuse Chatter or not use it in a way that it was designed for, it tends to be ignored. And obviously, you know, it can be a really powerful tool, communication tool, if it's used correctly. So I encourage people to put some rules around Chatter on when it should be used. It's really there designed to share relevant information that everyone should know about. Now, you can surely create a separate group for jokes and memes and, you know, events and all kinds of things, but I would create a separate group for that and allow people the opportunity to subscribe to it if they want to. The next two is, again, there might be some different opinions on this, but this is ours, that Salesforce is really not designed to replace your calendar or replace your email. You know, some people, they like to have every possible meeting or call that they have in Salesforce, or they copy every possible email over or sync every email over into Salesforce. And I would say that that's something you really want to think about. To me, your calendar application is great at managing your calendar. It has lots of features that Salesforce is never going to have. So use your calendar for calendar reasons. However, if there is something that's really relevant to everybody else, that everybody should know about, and it's really a critical piece in your overall process, yes, absolutely, you should put that calendar invite into the system. Same thing with emails. You might want to, so actually back to the calendar, an example of this is, if you're going to meet with a constituent to make an ask, yeah, absolutely. Put that meeting into the calendar so everybody's into the Salesforce calendar so everybody's aware of it. But do you need to have the 15 emails that you went back and forth on trying to nail down the date? Probably don't. You probably don't need that copied over. Salesforce does have integrations with Outlook, integrations with Gmail, Gcalendar. And I always recommend wait till phase 2 before you get into all that. Or it's better to just get used to the platform, what it offers, where it's different than other systems. And then you can make smart decisions later on about, what type of integrations you want to do with calendar and email in a subsequent phase. Similarly, Salesforce is not your document management repository. You will see that Salesforce has plenty of places where you can upload documents. And that might be fine that, if you finished a proposal and for historical purposes, you want to upload it there. But it is not as robust as a SharePoint or a Box or anything like that. The searching, the version management, all of that. So I would say use your document management tool for document management, and ideally integrate with Salesforce. So box.org, for example, does have an integration with Salesforce that several of our customers use. And it's a great integration, very seamless, very easy to put together, and it avoids filling up all your data and your storage limits with documents. So obviously, there is a storage limit based on your pricing level with Salesforce. So keeping that number low is always great to do through a document management system. Our 6th recommendation here is do not over-automate. Especially when you see things like Process Builder and how easy it is to automate things, you can say, oh, okay, well, let's automate this, let's automate that, let's add this validation, let's basically just govern everybody by, rather than training folks, let's govern everything through automation. And in our experience, that really turns people off from the system. If they feel like they're getting pop-ups and error messages every single time they do something, or it's firing off these 10 different activities that are hard to undo, it hurts user adoption over time. So we say, try to keep the system as out of the box and minimally configured as possible in the first phase. Let people get used to the system, use it for a few months, and then phase 2 or phase 1B, you want to start introducing some efficiencies over time. The decisions that you make in that second phase will be a lot smarter than having made those decisions up front without having used the system. And then the 7th and final point is consider an open security model. And this one, again, is a sensitive topic, but oftentimes, we say at the very beginning, CRM is really designed to help share information across the organization. And everybody usually buys into that principle until they start testing the system and start training it. And that's when they say, oh, no, I can't have anybody see this. Major gift officers I've worked with, not only do they not want to share information across the organization, they don't even want to share information across to other major gift officers. And I get it, that's a very common idea and thought to sort of preserve your own information. But by doing so, if we're simply just creating a isolated silo for each gift officer, we're basically just creating your same spreadsheet that you had before you had the system implemented, just now a very expensive spreadsheet. So we encourage a very open security model to start off with that, rather than building something very complex and spending a ton of money up front on that. Have it open. And have people see your information. Let your event organizers see who may be involved in a major gift process. Let some people who are managing your volunteers see where there might be some activity on the major gift side. The more you can share information, you're going to be able to help each other across the organization for fundraising, as well as ongoing relationships with that donor. Now, granted, there are exceptions. Some financial organizations I work with, or some nonprofits that are, have some HIPAA compliancy rules. Yeah, you might need to lock some things down. But my recommendation is keep things open. Don't spend all that money up front on building complex security models. Keep things open. And as you feel a need to secure things over time, then you can build that in and make smarter decisions in subsequent phases. So when people have adhered to these types of principles, we've seen a lot of success. And when people have not, that's when we've seen things go awry, and that's when user adoption becomes a challenge. So we definitely recommend taking a look at these types of things. And sort of wrapping up here, and again, please do post any questions. I'll look at that in just a second. These are some things to consider, whether you're implementing a high-touch fundraising program in your CRM, or customizing it to do so, or whether you're looking at a CRM as a whole and high-touch fundraising is a priority to you. I would say that these are these 7-8 things that you might want to think about. And I did mention this on our previous webinar also. First, you want to make sure you have a sound strategy. If you just kind of implement things and without it really being aligned with your strategy, it can be problematic. You want to make sure you start with the strategy, start with what you're trying to accomplish from a major gift fundraising plan, and then the system can be configured and built accordingly. You also want to invest some time in rethinking your business processes. Let's say there's certain processes that you're doing right now that are completely broken. You surely don't want to bring those broken processes into the new system. You want to make sure you document things find ways to optimize them, and only once you've gotten to that point, let's have the new system support those new processes. And third, this is pretty obvious, every consultant will tell you this, invest your time in data cleansing and deduplication up front. If you have dirty data and it's inaccurate data, outdated, and you're just moving that into your new system, your investment in the new system will not be fully realized. People will not have trust in the data, they will not have trust in the system, and they're not going to use it, and everyone's going to blame the system. So make sure you invest that time in data cleansing and deduplication and getting your data right up front. Number 4 and 5 are related here. When you embark on a project, whether it's for high-touch fundraising specifically or whether it's a new CRM implementation, you want to make sure you have your metrics and reports up front. So don't, you want to look at the end. What exactly are you trying to get out of the system? What are the key things you need to know? What are your key decision-making points that you need the system to provide you? Make sure that's provided up front so the system can be configured and built accordingly. Another area along those lines is your must-haves. Let's say that you're a gift processor and you have to code your gifts a certain way, otherwise they can't be sent to finance. Well, you want to make sure those things are identified early so that it's accounted for in the system. You surely don't want stuff like that to come up in testing or training or after rollout. The next item I have here is consider a phased approach, and I really strongly recommend this. And don't let consultants like me steer you otherwise. Oftentimes, people like to do this big bang approach where they have data migrations and new platform and tons of customizations, integrations, all in a short time frame. And those are risky, they're complex, and they're costly. So what we recommend is this crawl, walk, run approach where, let's say you start off with just getting the platform up and running and get people acclimated to it. A second phase could, and of course, getting all your data over. A second phase could be applying various apps from the App Exchange. A third phase could be turning your flat file integrations into real-time integrations. So we recommend considering a phased approach here. In whatever your project is, the more time you have in between phases to really think about what you want to do in that second phase or third phase, the better off you're going to be. Number 7, I would say very few organizations I've worked with have this part down, so I wanted to make sure I noted it, is to have a post-go-live plan ready. So, just because you've gone live doesn't mean the work is over. In fact, it's kind of just beginning. You want to make sure that you have a plan in place that as people start using the system, you have an ongoing training program, you have an opportunity for people to submit request enhancements for the system. And then you also want to publish a roadmap that, okay, well, every 2 months we're going to review all the enhancements, and every 3rd month we're going to have a new release. When people feel that they have a living, breathing system, it really helps user adoption over time. So have a post-go live plan ready, have people on point who are triaging, reviewing, and prioritizing your issues. And typically I recommend a cross-functional committee that manages that. So we have some information on our blog if you want to learn more about that. And sure enough, that is another webinar that's going to be coming shortly. And last but not least is investing time in change management from day one. And I'd say it's probably the most important thing on this list. You surely don't want to build this system in a vacuum and roll it out and have people see it for the first time during training. You want to engage folks, a cross-functional team, early on in the system, early and often. Moving from spreadsheets to Salesforce or Blackbaud to Salesforce or anything to anything, it takes time. People have really learned their way of doing things in the current system they have, as antiquated as it might be. So even if it's a great shiny system, you want to make change management is always hard. So you want to make sure that you get folks engaged early and often in the process, have them familiarize themselves throughout the process with the system, so that when training comes around, there's no surprises. They're familiar with the system, they know what they're getting, they know what they're not getting, and they're on board. So thinking through things from a change management perspective from day one is always the best way to go. So if your organization has change management experts and project managers and database administrators and Salesforce administrators who've done all these things, all of this is pretty straightforward. Not everybody does, especially nonprofits. So this is where you need to bring on some trusted advisors, whether they're people you hire or whether they're consultants. There are consultants out there that can help you with all of these things that you see. And of course, at 1/10, we're happy to help in any way. We provide services that do just those things, whether it's just early on in the process and you need some guidance to help you get started, whether it's helping you during the implementation itself, or whether it's ongoing training and system administration. We're here to help. And if give us a call. If we can't help you, we'll be happy to refer you to others who can. But we're happy to engage in a conversation with you. No pressure consultation where we can listen about your unique situation and give you some guidance along the way. So with that, I want to take one more look at the questions just to see if there's anything out there, and I'm happy to answer whatever you have. Good question about advanced pledged functionality. I don't know. I have heard this as well. I did not see the exact Dreamforce session, so I can't speak to the specific functionality. But I can tell you what my guess is, because just following on the forums what people have asked for, there's a big gap in the process where you've created a pledge and the pledge has been logged and a gift comes in, and there's no way to really sync up that gift to the initial pledge. And I've seen lots of customizations built around this to have tracking numbers and ID numbers and match the numbers, and so now we know that this gift is tied to the pledge. But no system is doing it really well. So my guess is that's going to be one of the things that Salesforce comes out with. I've seen a lot of people ask for it, that ability to close the loop when a pledge payment comes in for a pledge. And also a way of creating reminders for pledges, pledge reminders, pledge reports, again, things to help finance so they know that when things are coming in. So I suspect that Salesforce, in addition to that functionality, is likely going to come out with a series of dashboards and reports and automation around payments and payment reminders, so that pledge functionality is a lot better. Another thing is if you have a lot of sustainers, people who make recurring donations, I can see that as another area for improvement that I suspect Salesforce is going to be working on. For example, a lot of the tools that you can integrate with to accept online donations, like Click and Pledge, Form Assembly, and others, they allow you to take recurring gifts, but Salesforce doesn't really treat them like recurring gifts when they come in. They treat them like a brand new one-time gift. So that's another area that I see a lot of communication about, where people want to see these integrations with the online donation forms be a lot more robust and a lot more tightly integrated. Salesforce does not have its own payment processor, so it does use these other form tools in order for people to take online donations. So tighter integration is definitely necessary. So I can definitely see those two areas around recurring gifts and pledge payment coming very soon in Salesforce's NPSP roadmap. Take a look to see if there's any other questions. Thank you, David, and others for your comments there and questions. I appreciate it. Okay, I don't see anything else here, and we're almost up on our time. So I'm going to finish this the same way I started, with gratitude. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today and for participating in this. I am going to share the recording of this session to everybody. As I mentioned, I encourage you to please have a conversation with us. No pressure, as I said. If you'd like to just discuss your unique situation that you have at your nonprofit, and we're happy to offer any guidance and see if perhaps we can add any value. And if not, like I said, we're happy to direct you to someone who may. I would also encourage you to follow us on our social media. So even if you're months or years away from making any decisions on your CRM plan or high touch fundraising plan, I would encourage you to take a look at our blog, because we frequently put some thoughts and ideas out there that you might want to consider as you're going through your planning process. And also we periodically do some feature spotlights, not only on Salesforce, but other fundraising solutions that are out there. So if there's, you're interested in, grants management, or you're interested in donor surveys or volunteer management, we have frequent blog posts, webinars, and papers out there that you can check out and read, and follow up with us with any questions. With that, again, I thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.